Journal of William Huntington, 1784 to 1846. TypeScript, HBLL. This version edited for standard grammar. Page 1, on flyleaf, October 11th, 1845. 1. Received my appointment as a captain to lead a company of 100 families up into the wilderness. A brief sketch of the life of William Huntington, Sr. My parents were born in Tolland, County, state of Connecticut. They moved into New Grantham, Cheshire County, state of New Hampshire soon after the close of the war with Great Britain, the Revolution. I was born March 28, 1784, in New Grantham, Cheshire County, state of New Hampshire. 1. Lived there with my parents until February 1804. My father then moved with his family to Watertown, Jefferson County, state of New York, in the fall of 1806. I returned to my native land and was married to Zena Baker, who was born May 2, 1786, in the town, of Plainfield County and state aforesaid, New Hampshire. I was married December 28, 1806, and moved to Watertown, Jefferson County and state aforesaid, New York. 1. Was prospered in the things of this world until 1811. I sold my farm, had possession of it for 1 year, when war was declared in 1812, which was unfavorable to me. Sickness and death came into my family. One scene of misfortune after another rolled upon me until I was reduced low as to property. In 1816, Providence smiled on me again. I continued to be prospered until 1835. In 1816, I experienced religion, as was called in those days, united with the Presbyterians, and walked with them some 14 years in good standing. In said time, the Spirit of the Lord called my mind into action in various respects. First, to abstain from all intoxicating liquors, hot drinks, and tobacco. When I had accomplished this great object, my mind was then in a situation to look into the situation of the churches which were extant upon the face of the earth. I found the prophet is, or had seen what should come in the last days. That darkness should cover the earth and gross darkness, the minds of the people. About 1832, I was moved upon by the Spirit of God to look into the situation of the churches. I found the ordinances changed and the covenants broken. The fear of, page 2, God was taught by the precepts of men. They had a form of godliness, but denied the power thereof. From such things, I felt my duty to turn away. I withdrew from the church, Presbyterians, and stood alone. I searched the scriptures daily. 1. Found the faith once delivered to the saints was not among men. The power of the priesthood was lost. In searching the scriptures and history, I found where it, the priesthood, was gone, or, in other words, John the Revelator said it had gone into the wilderness. I found in searching the scriptures that the church should return, bringing with her the gifts and graces as it formerly had in the apostles' day. I boldly advocated the gospel as our Savior taught it in his days, or as the apostles taught. I told the people I believed I should see a church in my day based on the gospel plan as was in the apostles' days. In this frame of mind, I stood for some 2 or 3 years anxiously contending for the faith once delivered to the saints. In 1833, I found the Book of Mormon. I read the book, believed in the book, and felt that it was what it was represented to be. My mind thus being prepared to receive the gospel accordingly, in the month of April 1835, myself and my wife both united with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Here I will note something relative to my temporal concerns. I owned a good farm of nearly 200 acres of land, 130 acres under good improvement, in high state of cultivation, 1 good stone house, 2 good barns and other buildings, a large stock of cattle, horses, carriages, and farming utensils. Nearly out of debt, in comfortable situation as I could ask for, to make us comfortable in life. In short, I never saw the time that I was in as great prosperity as I was when I united with the saints. In August 1836, I sold my farm for $3,500, which was $1,000 less than value. In 2 months' time, I disposed of my stock, produce, farming utensils, closed all my business, and on the 1st of October 1836, I left my home, and, Arrived at page 3, Sackett's Harbor, the same day. The next day a severe storm took place which detained us in the harbor until the 7th of October. We then went on board a steamer, sailed to Genesee River, and went to Rochester, New York. We took a canal boat to Buffalo, New York. There we took another steamer for Fairport, Ohio, from thence by land to Kirtland, which place we arrived 11th of October, 1836. We arrived in Kirtland at the time of great prosperity with the church, as it was called. 1. Witnessed the rise of the bank, Kirtland Safety Society. At the same time I purchased 40 acres of land with a good 2-story house nearly finished, 1 mile south of the Kirtland Temple. 1. Witnessed the fall of the bank, Kirtland Safety Society, and the downfall of Kirtland in every sense of the word. The spirit of dissension took place with many of the first elders in the church. A spirit of persecution took place which broke up the church. All the heads of the church were driven from the place by the dissenters to the state of Missouri. While I remained in Kirtland, I endeavored to sustain the presidency, the bank, and all the ordinances of the Lord's house. In the fall of 1837, I received an appointment in the High Council. 1. Served as a counselor until the church was broken up in September 1837. Myself and wife returned to Watertown, New York, to visit our friends together for the last time. We found them generally much opposed to the gospel. We returned to Kirtland finally, during the breaking down of Kirtland. In consequence of a mortgage which was on the farm I bought of Jacob Bump, who failed in property, or in consequence of his, Bump's, becoming a dissipated, dishonest dissenter, I lost my land which cost me $3,000. In this situation I was suddenly reduced to a state of poverty. In this situation it became necessary for me to remove with the rest of the church to the state of Missouri. I had neither team nor money. Consequently, Brother Oliver Snow loaned me the use of a pair of oxen to put onto my wagon, as I had a double and single wagon left with a poor old mare 20 years old. In the single wagon, page 4, after having sold most of our household furniture, bedding and clothing exempted, I boxed up most of our bedding and clothing with my iron tools, and sent them by water, and I never have seen or heard of them since. Sister Ives loaned me $32, and in this situation I left Kirtland on the 21st of May, 1838. We were 8 weeks and 3 days on our journey to Far West. We arrived there the 18th of July, 1838. During our journey, I drove an ox team and traveled on foot the whole distance, except when we forded streams of water. We were blessed with good health and no misfortune on our journey, which was nearly 1,000 miles. To my great joy, I found my son, Dimmick, Huntington, and family in Far West, who went from Watertown, Jefferson County, New York, in the season of 1836. When we arrived in Far West, I had not 1 cent to help myself with, but went to work by days to get something to subsist on. I labored in Far West about 1 month, procured some provision for my family, and as there was a settlement commenced by the brethren in Adamondiaman, Daviess County, Missouri, it was thought advisable for me to settle there. I went myself to Diamond, Adamondiaman, to build me a house. Soon after I commenced laboring the place, the difficulty took place with the mob, which caused us much trouble. I was nearly 1 month trying to build me a house for my family who were at Far West. I slept in my clothes with my rifle in my arms nearly 1 month. Daytimes we labored what we could with our arms and ammunition by our sides, while others were on scouts ranging timber and prairies, watching the movements of the mob who were expected on us every hour. Thus we labored day and night. On the 1st of October, 1838, I removed my family to Adamondiaman. The war became more severe. We were under the necessity of calling on the brethren at Far West for help until they were under the necessity of calling on us at Diamond for all the forces to be sent to Far West. So the state, Missouri, called all the militia out and concentrated, page 5, their forces against Far West. Their forces consisted of about 7,000 strong. The church was under the necessity of laying down their arms and of giving up the first presidency and others, as may be seen in the history of the persecution which took place about the 1st of November. About the time I removed my family from Far West, October 1838, the church purchased a grist mill of Judge Morin of Davies County. We removed the mill to Diamond, repaired the mill, got it in operation, and did first-rate business. About the time the war became severe, the mill was just in operation. I was appointed to take charge of the mill. One also was appointed commissary of the army and had the charge of distributing all the provision to the church, such as meal and meat tallow and etc., during the stay of the church in Diamond. After the surrender of the church in Far West, troops were sent from Far West to Diamond for the purpose of completing the destruction of Diamond. Accordingly, on the 8th of November, 1838, we were ordered, as our flourishing little town had the day before been filled with Missouri troops, to march out and leave our wives and children behind and go down into the bottom prairie. We were ordered to form a hollow square. There we stood until the army had formed all around us. Some behaved decently, others scoffed, made derision, and some were painted, making a horrid and frightful appearance. I had with me in the ranks 3 of my sons, William, Oliver, and John. After this military display, we were ordered to lay down our arms, swords, and pistols not exempt, and marched off from the ground, leaving all our arms behind. We were escorted back to our village, were ordered to form a line by the side of a fence, and there, in a defenseless state, stand and receive their abuse by cocking their pieces and threatening our lives with instant death for the term of 2 hours. We were then dismissed with orders to appear at 8 o'clock the next morning before General Robert Wilson's tent for further orders. We appeared in the morning before, page 6, the general's quarters. We there received our orders to leave our homes and lands in 10 days, go to Caldwell County or Far West. This was on the 9th of November. Cold weather there. We were permitted to stay and leave the state of Missouri in the spring before the time to put in crops. We accordingly set about this work, which was very difficult, as many of our brethren were prisoners at Far West or were at Richmond, Missouri, for sham trials. We accomplished the work in the time, with the exception of 3 or 4 families, 1 blind man, some widows, and etc. I left Diamond the 18th of November, 1838, arrived in Far West on the 26th of November. Before we left Diamond, General Wilson appointed a committee of 24 men, 12 Mormons, and 12 citizens of Davies County, to sell all our business ware, to have 3 winter months to collect our stock and grain and get out of the county. No other Mormon was to come into the county upon penalty of death, myself one of the committee. After my arrival in Far West with my family, I was notified there was diligent inquiry and search for me to take me to Richmond. I accordingly left my family immediately and went to King Follett's to stay 3 days. One had not left my family but a few minutes when 3 men arrived at the door, inquired for me under arms, and searched the house for me. One was not found by them. After my absence from my family 3 days, I received my permit to go to Davies County. I will insert my individual pass out of the county and state. I permit William Huntington to remove from Davies to Caldwell County, there to remain during the winter or to pass out of the state. November 9th, 1838 R. Wilson VRG Gen. By F. G. Cockner, aid. I will now insert another permit. I permit the following persons as a committee on the part of the Mormons to pass and repass in and through the county of Davies during the winter, to wit: William Huntington, John Reed, Benjamin S. Wilbur, Mayhew Hillman, Z. Wilson, Elijah B. Gaylord, Henry Harriman, page 7, Daniel Stanton, Oliver Snow, William Earl, W.M. Hale, and Henry Humphrey upon all careful business. November 18th, 1838 R. Wilson VRG Gen. Commanding, by F. G. Cockner, aid. We immediately organized, myself acting as foreman. We labored in the county 4 weeks, collected many of our cattle, horses, sheep, wagons, and other property. Ascertained where the fields of corn were belonging to the brethren, the number of acres and the amount of bushels of corn, as near as we could calculate, which amounted to 29,465 bushels, we lost. We hauled some out in the 4 weeks we were permitted to do business in the county. Though we were by our permit allowed the privilege of doing business during the winter, at the expiration of 1 month, we were ordered out of the county as our lives would not be safe. Accordingly, we up all business and left at the expiration of the time. I saw the last Mormon out of Diamond the morning I left the county. It became necessary that Brother Hale and myself should go from Diamond to Hans Mill. We called out Esq Fall to see a man who it was said was there. It was, as is termed, their law day. His office was crowded with mob characters. Here I met with a man who threatened my life on inquiring the way to Hans Mill. One was told it was 3 miles beyond hell, and if I would go on, I should get into hell before night. One was threatened to be tied to a tree on Chawbank, as the mob were in the habit of tying the brethren up to trees and whipping them even to death. We were advised by a female to leave the county immediately, as she knew the mob's intentions were to kill all Mormons who were not out of the county that day. Accordingly, we gave up the idea of going to Hans Mill and turned for far west. Sun 2 hours up at night. As cold a day as there was that winter. This was the night before Christmas. We were 18 miles from Far West, and we were in Far West a little after dark. The same evening we suffered severely with the cold. Page 8. This closed all business in Daviess County. What was not got from there was lost. I remained in Far West, had the care of the provision we got from Daviess County, and dealt it out to the brethren. The mob in the meanwhile were taking every opportunity of availing themselves of the brethren's property by telling that on such a day that the mob would be in to kill and burn, which induced many to sell property at its value to get means to remove out of the state. About this time, the legislature of the state made a small appropriation of provisions and clothing for the relief of the distressed, which was an imposition on the people. This distribution took place on the 25th of January, 1839. Our case now became alarming. It appeared the inhabitants were determined to strip us of all means of getting out of the state. The church then took into consideration the situation of the brethren. A committee was then appointed on the 2nd day of February 1839 for the purpose of adopting such measures as was best calculated to effect this great object. Accordingly, I was appointed on said committee and acted as foreman. We organized, drew a covenant or article of agreement in which most of the people of the church signed, binding ourselves to the extent of all our available property over and above what was necessary for the removal of our families to be put into the hands of the committee for the purpose of the removal of the poor. The church therefore put into the hands of the committee all their best furniture and farming utensils. Many sold their farms, put in the avails in part, others put in money, and in consequence of the sale of lands in Jackson County, we were enabled to remove all the poor who had a desire to leave the state of Missouri into the state of Illinois. I continued in business in Far West until the 13th day of April 1839, when in council it was thought advisable for me to leave. Accordingly, on the 13th day of April 1839, I left Far West with my family. We had a prosperous journey. We crossed the Mississippi River into, page 9, the state of Illinois on the 25th of April, 1839. We went 4 miles east of the city of Quincy to my son Dimmick Huntington, who at that time was living with his family in a house belonging to Judge Rufus Cleveland. Here I will say something relative to my son Dimmick's case. In consequence of his having been in what was called the Crooked River Battle, where a number of the mob were killed, which infuriated the mob against our brethren, it was thought advisable for all who were in the battle at the time the mob came into Far West, that they should flee accordingly. At the time the mob were coming into one side of the city, Dimmick, Huntington, and 4 other of the brethren were passing out of the other side of the city, in sight of the mob. Dimmick took command of the company. He led them on a northeast course through timber and prairie. The cold ground covered part of the time with snow. They forded streams, also the Des Moines River. Said company were on horseback and crossed the Mississippi River near Fort Madison, Iowa, into Illinois. Dimmick Huntington went down to Quincy, Illinois, hired Judge Rufus Cleveland. Dimmick gave him his horse to come to far west after his family and bring them to him at the judge's place of residence in Quincy, where I now am with my son, Dimmick. 1. Stayed with him, Dimmick Huntington, and family at the house of Judge Cleveland until the 10th of May, 1839. Sidney Rigdon and others, by the direction and counsel of Joseph Smith, had made a small purchase of land from Dr. Isaac Gamland, Galland, at Commerce, Illinois, 60 miles up the river, as a place for the saints to gather again. Accordingly, on the 10th of May, 1839, I commenced journeying up the river for Commerce, as was then called, since called Nauvoo. I arrived in Nauvoo, Illinois, on the 14th of May, 1839. Here I will say Brother Joseph Smith, family were taken from Missouri to Judge Cleveland's house, into his family. They remained there until Brother Joseph made his escape from the enemy, and came to his family in Quincy, or at Judge Cleveland's. I left Quincy at the same time Joseph and family left for Commerce. After our arrival in Nauvoo, my family were blessed with good health and prosperity until the 24th, page 10, of June 1839. My wife was taken sick with the chills and fever. She lived until the 8th of July, 1839, and expired age 53. My daughter Zena was taken sick the 25th of June, 1839. Myself was taken sick on the 27th of June, 1839, and Oliver was taken sick the 1st of July, 1839. John then was the only one in the family, excepting William D., who then lived with Brother Joseph Smith, who were able, or who followed their mother to the grave. They were able to attend to her burial. Thus on the 8th of July, 1839, myself, Zena, and Oliver are all confined to the bed, my companion taken from me and consigned to the grave in a strange land and in the depth of poverty. We continued in this situation until the 16th of July, 1839, when John was taken sick. Thus the whole of my family living with me were now sick and confined to our beds. My case became alarming, my life despaired of, our means exhausted, but because of the fear of the brethren in the place, who were all poor and at this time becoming sick, my case was taken into consideration. It was thought advisable to break up my family, as the house we lived in was an unhealthy place and would most certainly result in the death of us all. Thus on the 28th of July, 1839, we were taken from our house and were distributed in 3 families. Myself and Zena were taken to Brother Joseph Smith's house, Oliver to Brother Hiram Clark's, and John to Brother Gad Yale's, and in the time we were thus situated, William D., as he was living at Brother Joseph's, was taken sick and his life despaired of. Yet the Lord in mercy appeared in our behalf. We all began to mend. So much so that on the 20th of August, 1839, we all were removed to Hiram Clark's, who, in the time we were in his family, went to England on a mission. Sister Clark's family were all taken sick, and 9 of us would have ague and fever in a day. Still the Lord was merciful to us all. We continued to recover. On the 28th of September, 1839, we then removed into a house which Dimmick B. and William D. Huntington built on Dimmick's lot for my family. Said house had neither door, floor, chimney, nor window. Most all sick around us. In this situation I was placed, and not one of us could cut a stick, page 11, or bring a pail of water from the river when our ague and fever was on us. My sons were kind. As soon as was convenient, our cabin, which was 12 feet square, was made comfortable. Here I found, in drawing contrast, I had passed from a state of affluence worth thousands, down to the lowest state of poverty, even to be in debt and nothing to pay my debts. My companion was gone, who had passed with me through all our trials and scenes of afflictions by water, by land, in war in Missouri, in moving to this place, in her sickness, to her death, and never murmured, nor complained. We felt to bear all our afflictions for Christ's sake, looking forward for the recompense of reward, as did Paul, through the goodness of God. I now had the remainder of my family with me, and no means, no provision, to live on, only as my sons and brethren helped us from meal to meal, until the Lord opened the way that I got trusted for some provision by a citizen whose name was Davison Hibbard. At a conference in Nauvoo, the first Tuesday in October 1839, I was appointed as one of the High Council. I will note that from the 27th of June, 1839, to the 27th of January, 1840, I was not able to do a day's work. On the 27th of January, I was able to go with my sons on the ice, up the river to the islands and drive a team for 2 weeks. Thus my health continued to improve. In the spring, 1840, I went to work at stone masoning. I continued to live in Dimmicks, Huntington, house with my children, my daughter Zena keeping house for me until the 29th of September, 1840. I was then married to the widow Lydia Partridge. She was the widow of Edward Partridge, who was appointed first bishop of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and remained bishop until his death on the 30th of September, 1839. I moved with my family, which consisted of 3, Zena, Oliver B., and John D. Huntington, into the house or family with her, Lydia Partridge's family, which consisted of 5, Eliza, Emily, Caroline, Lydia, and Edward in the last of the month of September 1840. The ordinance of baptizing for the dead was instituted in the church on the 11th of October, 1840. I was baptized, page 12, for my mother Prescienda Prescindia, Huntington. October 12th, 1840, the church commenced the work of tithing by quarrying stone and drawing them for the purpose of building a house to the Lord. March 7th, 1841, my daughter Zena was married to Henry Jacobs. March 8th, 1841, the saints commenced laying the foundation stone of the Lord's house in the city of Nauvoo, Hancock County, Illinois. Said house on the ground is 128 feet in length and 88 feet in width. The city was divided into 10 wards. Each ward works once in 10 days. Consequently, there are laborers every working day of the week. The 5th of April, 1841, nth wall of the Nauvoo Temple was raised 5 feet, was in readiness to receive the cornerstone for hewed stone of the basement story. The 6th of April, 1841, and 4 cornerstones were laid down with military display. The Nauvoo Legion were under arms. An able address was delivered by Sidney Rigdon. It was calculated there were 10,000 people present at the celebration. I will here state that I was one who assisted in laying the first stone that was laid in the bottom of the foundation of the Nauvoo Temple, and also was one selected with others in laying the 4 cornerstones at, or on the 6th of April, 1841. April 11th, 1841, Joseph Smith and Sidney Rigdon baptized each other for the remission of their sins, as this order was then instituted in the church. Accordingly, on the 27th of April, 1841, I was baptized for the remission of my sins. Also, on the same day, was baptized for my brother Hiram Huntington. May 23rd, 1841, was baptized for my mother's father John Lathrop and her grandfather Gray. May 27th, 1841, was elected captain of a company of Silver Grays in the Nauvoo Legion. May 29th, 1841, was baptized for my mother's mother and also for my mother's grandmother Gray. June 13th, 1841, was baptized for my grandfather Huntington and his wife, and also, page 13, for Samuel Huntington, who signed the Declaration of Independence of the United States. All affairs of the church move on in harmony and prosperity through this summer and fall. The work on the house of the Lord is prospering. The basement story almost up. Sickness and deaths much less than it was last year. The 12 members of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles return, ed., from England in prosperity. We've a great flood of emigration from the States, Canada, and Europe. My family blessed with health, with the comforts of life and peace through this year 1841. 1. Will state also that the institution of tithing has been carried into effect in the course of the year 1841 to great amount by paying a tenth of labor on the Nauvoo Temple, and also a tenth of all we possess, means to a great amount that has been handed over to the trustee and trust for the purpose of building the house of the Lord. This is up to the 15th of January, 1842. January 5th, 1842, I commenced carting stone for the Nauvoo temple and continued so to do through the year. No great event transpired with me or my family. We have been blessed with health and the comforts of life. My children all have been blessed for the year. The church has been prospered, and Nauvoo has had great immigration. Joseph Smith has been acquitted from Missouri writs, and thus ends the year 1842. The church, myself, and family all in prosperity up to April 16th, 1843. This day, April 16th, 1843, came to hand some resolutions which I passed some time with myself on account of accumulating habits I had for a long time been slave to. In common with others in July 1827, 1. Resolved that I would not drink any more strong drink. In July 1831, 1. Resolved that I would not drink any more hot drinks. In January 1832, 1. Resolved that I would not use cider, strong beer, wines, or anything of an intoxicating nature. In February 1832, 1. Resolved that I would not use any more tobacco. This day I can of a truth say all those resolutions have been strictly adhered to by myself up to this date, April 16th, 1843. Through this year, I have labored cutting stone, page 14, constantly. No important event with my family has occurred. 1. Have bought a lot of the committee, and am to give $400, and in 18 months, have supported my family and paid for my lot. Myself, family, and the church have been blessed through the year 1843. January 1st, 1844, and the affairs of the church have been very prosperous through the winter with the exception of a scarcity of provision at the Nauvoo temple. The committee recommended to the stonecutters to go out into the branches and preach to the people the necessity of pay, ing, in their tenth. I went over the Mississippi River into Iowa and preached 1 week in the different branches, and the people brought wagon loads of provision for the Nauvoo temple. All who went out to preach were blessed, and much provision was brought into the Nauvoo temple. The work went on well until the 17th of June, 1844. In the winter of 1844, a great revival took place in Nauvoo. The spirit of Elijah was in some measure poured out on the people. The hearts of many fathers were turned to their children, and the hearts of the children to the fathers. Great union prevailed in the church until the spring of 1844, when a party descended from the church with William and Wilson Law, Dr. Foster, Francis M. Higbee, Chauncey Higbee, Austin Cowles, James Blakesley, and Dr. Green of Iowa, the principal men who led away others. William Law came out at there, the prophet exclaiming Joseph Smith to have fallen, and cut off all the church and organized, as they called, the true church. They purchased a press and commenced publishing a paper entitled the Nauvoo Expositor, one of the most libelous, blasphemous, and slanderous papers ever published by man. The city council took the subject of the press in hand, passed an ordinance, considered it a nuisance, and ordered it demolished forthwith. Accordingly, the marshal ordered the police to destroy the press, which was done at his order. This enraged the before-named apostates. They ran through the country, circulating lies of the blackest ire in order to get up excitement and accomplish the desired, page 15, object. So far as to fix on a time to come into Nauvoo and burn down our city and exterminate the inhabitants. Said press, on which the Nauvoo Expositor was printed, agreeable to an ordinance passed 10th of June, 1844, was destroyed, which was the cause of those dissenters, the Law brothers, Higbees, Dr. Green, and others, going through the country line to get up the excitement which had the desired effect expressed from both sides. News was sent to the governor, Thomas Ford. The governor accordingly arrived in Carthage. Writs were issued for Joseph and Hiram Smith, the city council, and others amounting in all to 15 in number. On the 24th of June, 1844, the brethren, Joseph and Hiram and the others, left Nauvoo accompanied by lawyers and constables to Carthage, Illinois, for trial. Within 4 miles of Carthage, they were met by a company of men, 60 in number, commanded by Captain Dunn, who was ordered by the governor to call for the state arms of the Nauvoo Legion. Joseph Smith endorsed the order and returned with Dunn to Nauvoo, delivered the arms, and returned the same night to Carthage. They arrived in Carthage on the morning of the 25th, June 1844, the same time Joseph and Hiram were arrested for treason against the state of Illinois. All the brethren, who, in the first place were arrested for a riot in destroying the press, were permitted to enter into a recognizance to answer at the next term of the circuit court. Of those brethren, most of them returned to Nauvoo. Joseph Smith, Hiram Smith, Willard Richards, and John Taylor remained in prison. The excitement was so great in Warsaw, Carthage, and other points, the governor detached a company of 60 men from McDonough County, Illinois, under the command of Captain Singleton to take the command and protect the city of Nauvoo, and remained in Nauvoo until the evening of the 27th of June 1844. At 5 o'clock of the same day, Governor Ford arrived in Nauvoo escorted by a company of horsemen under the command of Captain Dunn, delivered a short address, and returned the same evening to Carthage. Awful to relate that while the governor was in Nauvoo, a band of assassins attacked the prison, Carthage jail, murdered brothers Joseph and Hiram Smith, and wounded John Taylor. On the 28th of June 1844, the dead were brought to Nauvoo. The 29th, June 1844, was a day of as great mourning as was ever seen on earth. I was one of 16 who were appointed, page 16, to bury their bodies, which was done on the 29th of June, 1844. On the 25th of June, 1844, the Nauvoo Legion was called out by the order of General Joseph Smith, and the city put under martial law to defend ourselves from the attack of the mob. On the 25th, I received the appointment of Commissary General Pro Tem for the Nauvoo Legion through that campaign, which continued until the 6th of July, 1844, when the Legion was discharged. All the people retired in quiet to their occupations. The work commenced again on the Lord's house on the 8th of July. The inhabitants of the city are in great want of provision. Many of them have and are going into the country to labor in the harvest fields, as the wheat harvests are great in this country, which is in favor of the saints at this time of distress. Through this week past, the saints have remained quiet and composed under our heavy trial. As could be expected, deep mourning pervades our city for the loss of our beloved Joseph and Hiram. The people are waiting with anxiety for the return of the 12. As soon as they return, a special conference will be called for the purpose of appointing a trustee in trust or one who shall preside over the church. Parley Pratt returned on the 11th of July, 1844. On this day, that is the 11th of July, I commenced work on the Nauvoo temple again, cutting stone. The mob in the course of this week have been, in some measure, stilled. In consequence of a message or a reply from the governor to them, having made requisitions of him, the governor, for help to drive out the Mormons from the county, which request was refused them by the governor. A committee in the course of the week has been sent from the mob to the Morley settlement. The mob demands that they leave their homes, though not as yet complied with by the saints. We are now waiting the order of the governor in the arrest of those assassins who murdered our prophets, as he says the law shall be put in force to arrest them. Lord's Day, July 14th, 1844, Nassumvold at the stand, a great congregation consisting of thousands. We were addressed by Parley Pratt on the subject of the death of the prophets. Though dead, yet they live. Page 17, spoke comforting to the saints, encouraging people to faithfulness in all things both spiritual and temporal. Pratt urged the gathering to Nauvoo to build up the city and above all, build up the Lord's house, that when done, we might meet our beloved prophets at the time of the inducement of the faithful. This day, one, have been called with others to administer to a female who is possessed with the devil. July 14th, 1844, Emmy family, my sons and daughters, my companion and hers, are all in good health as far as I know. Amen. Praise God. From July 14th up to August 4th, 1844, all things have passed on quietly in the city. All things our eyes behold appears to be in mourning for the loss of our beloved prophets. There are some among us who seem to be inclined to lead off, some, who appear to be unstable in their minds, into the wilderness. George Miller is the most prominent man in this principle, but more are waiting for the return of the 12 when a special conference will be held and things pertaining to the welfare of the church will be taken into consideration and acted upon in wisdom. In the same time, the work has progressed rapidly on the Nauvoo temple. The brethren are liberal in paying their tenth. A good feeling exists in general. In the same time, the governor has issued a proclamation to the people of Warsaw and Hancock County, which is in favor of the Mormons. The governor acknowledge us as law-abiding people and that they are not, that is, those who are our persecutors, the mob, appear to be in trouble. The saints are quiet still, all at our work, minding our business. They cannot understand us, therefore fear has taken hold of them. At present, all is quiet in the county. Sidney Rigdon arrived in Nauvoo August 3, 1844 from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Delivered a message or a revelation to the saints on the 4th of August to a congregation of thousands informing us he had received a vision like unto the one which Joseph and himself had, which is in the Book of Covenants. He saw the prophet in the page 18 heavens. He has the keys of this dispensation, and will hold them in time and to all eternity. Rigdon says we shall have no more Joseph, but must choose us a guardian through whom Joseph will speak to the people and will stand as a God to this dispensation. This guardian will be to us as Moses was to the children of Israel. Myself and family, my sons and daughters, are all alive and in good health. August 4th, 1844. August 8th, 1844, a special conference was called by the 12 who had returned from their mission. We learnt from them that it was their prerogative to preside instead of Sidney Rigdon, as Sidney's, in consequence of unfaithfulness, ordination as prophet, seer, and revelator had been taken from him and conferred on Amasa Lyman. Therefore, the 12 have been ordained, sealed and anointed, in fine, have received all the power necessary to preside in Nauvoo and to bear of the truth of the gospel in all the world. The 12 have been received and acknowledged by all the church or a majority of the church in Nauvoo at said conference as the head. Every way qualified to lead the church, and as Brigham Young is president of the 12, of course he is the man through whom God speaks to the church. An organization of the church has been made. Bishops Whitney and Miller have been appointed trustees and trust. All things move on in perfect order. The Nauvoo temple is advancing on with great speed. All things are moving on in good order in the city, with the exception of some little uneasiness with Sidney, Marks, and some others with respect to Sidney's right to the presidency. Sidney, it is supposed, is wishing to lead off a party. Lyman White has gone up the river 500 miles to the River La Crosse, Wisconsin, or up the said river where I expect he will calculate to establish a stake and build up a kingdom to himself. Lyman left the 29th of August, 1844. September 1st, 1844 in Sidney, Rigdon was called on to stand and deliver a singular discourse. I will say it, in my opinion, was an enthusiastic, page 19, discourse. The last he has or probably ever will deliver in Nauvoo. On the 8th or the Sunday following, his case was acted upon and he was cut off from the church, and since many others who are his followers, they too were excommunicated from the church. Leonard Sabe, one of the High Council, also was cut off from the church. About the 10th, September 1844, Sidney left Nauvoo for Pittsburgh and many are following him. All things are moving prosperously in Nauvoo up to this time. There is, however, now a call for 200 men to stand in readiness for some expedition. Saturday evening, September 21st, 1844, Emmy family are all in good health. All things move on in a healthy channel. The work on the Nauvoo temple prospers. The Rigdonites are moving off a few in number for Pittsburgh. September 24th, 1844, two companies of independent militia arrived in town from Quincy by the order of Governor Ford to protect the Mormons from the pretended wolf hunt by the mob. September 27th, 1844, Governor Ford in person arrived in Nauvoo. September 28th, 1844, Legion on parade. Reviewed by the governor. Same evening, shot one of their men in a sham fight. September 30th, 1844, Governor, Ford, and troops, to the amount of 400, left Nauvoo for Warsaw to arrest the murderers of Joseph and Hiram Smith. Williams and Sharp were taken at Warsaw, from thence to Quincy. There, they passed an examination, bled to court troops. All disbanded. Another wolf hunt advertised on the 27th of October, 1844. All things remain quiet in Nauvoo. October 6th, 1844, conference commenced. Passed off in good order, great instruction. A more full organization gone into than ever before with the quorums of the saints. High priest and 70s are to be sent into all parts of America, or more particular, North America. They are to go through. High priests and 70s will locate themselves in stipulated districts and, if possible, page 20, build up churches unto the Lord. All things remain quiet at present. Sunday, October 6th, 1844, Emmy family all in good health. All things move on in good order in the city of Nauvoo. For 2 weeks preparations have been made for the sitting of the circuit court at Carthage. As a number of our brethren were under bonds for appearance to court the 21st of October, 1844, for destroying the press of the expositor. 200 men out with arms suited, for the protection of the brethren. Some were cited. Others were put over till next term. All returned safe to Nauvoo and to indictment so as found before the grand jury against 9 of the murderers of Joseph and Hiram Smith. October 27th, 1844, court yet in session. My family are all in good health. Court rise, for good about the 31st of October. The month of November has passed off and no event of great has not, transpired. All things remain quiet in Nauvoo to the 24th November 1844. On this day, the 13th Quorum of 70s was organized. All the quorums have been under a strict drill of improvement. They are receiving teachings from the 12 and the presidents of the different quorums every week. The church has never been in so good a situation as at the present. The greatest union prevails in the church that ever has existed. Purging out the Lawites, Limonites, the Amatites, and the Rigdonites relieves the church of a great burden. It appears to be the mind of the great body to carry out the principles of Joseph, to establish the kingdom in these last days, and to support the 12 in carrying out the same principles and assist them in the bearing of the gospel to the nations of the earth for the last time. Since the death of Joseph and Hiram Smith, a mighty effort has been made by the church to rush the Nauvoo temple ahead, which has excelled the expectations of all. The people have done well in bringing in their tithing. In consequence of the faithfulness of the saints, our enemies are at present confounded and thwarted in all their wicked purposes. All is well in Zion up to this last day of November, 1844. December 1st, 1844, Emmy family all well. Snow is 4 inches deep. This 6th of December, 1844, the work on the Nauvoo temple is moving on with great rapidity in all its various branches. The storehouse is full and provision and money are coming in. There has been a new organization. The business which has been conducted by brothers Cutter and Cahoon is now in the hands of the trustees and trust, bishops Newell, Whitney, and George Miller, who receive all proffered and pay off all the hands. I will here notice the first cornerstone was set Monday, September 23rd, 1844. Last Friday, December 6th, 1844, and 21 minutes before 1 o'clock p.m., I am as yet cutting stone for the Nauvoo temple, and provide for my family with, through the avails of my labor on the temple. My family are all in good health this 8th day of December, 1844. Business is moving on in good order in all respects, both temporally and spiritually, in Nauvoo. The legislature are in session this month. The Nauvoo charters were the first on the table for an unconditional repeal. Almond Babbitt and Joseph Davis were chosen to represent Hancock County. Davis has been arrested in Springfield for the murder of Joseph and Hiram Smith. Babbitt has maintained the cause of the saints in the legislature in wisdom, as yet has returned to Nauvoo for instruction. He was to never consent to yield one item of our charters. The subject of the charters was, before he left, laid over till after the 10th of January, 1845. Babbitt returned from Springfield about the 20th of December. December 22nd, 1844, Sundaynall is well in Nauvoo. The quorums of the 70s are still going on under a state of organization. A celebration of the 70s Hall was commenced by the quorums, which continued 7 days. Attending were the members of 2 quorums with their wives. In a day, the 15th quorum is now organized. I went with my wife and my sons and daughter and their wives and husband to Lima to hold Christmas with my daughter Presenda Buell. We had a good visit. All returned in safety. All affairs in Nauvoo are prosperous up to the end of the year 1844. My family all well. Page 22, January 13th, 1845 came in warm. No water froze the morning of the 1st, January 1845. It remains warm and pleasant. All the businesses of the saints prospering in Nauvoo up to the January 5th. My family all well. This week passed off and all things have moved on in harmony and in good order up to the 12th, January 1845. January 19th to 25th, 1845, also have moved on in like manner. The organization of the quorums of the church are going on in order and great rapidity. The 20th quorum of the 70s is now organized. The high priest quorum is increasing rapidly and have covenanted to finish off the upper story of the Nauvoo temple this season, coming for their own convenience for meeting and for the furthering of the work of receiving the endowment, as there are ordinances which cannot be given only in an upper story. The brethren made a covenant, which covenant was made on the 26th of January, 1845. The Nauvoo temple is progressing rapidly, as also the arsenal. My family and my children all well and prospered up to this 26th of January, 1845. All the affairs of the church move on in good order. The greatest union prevails in the church that ever had done existed up to the close of this month. My family and friends are all well. February 2nd, 1845, here. I will note our city election took place on the first Monday in February, in which all our city officers were elected without opposition. Our affairs in the legislature are still the topic of discussion. Our charters stand as yet repealed propositions. Plans have been made to give us a new charter. All the affairs of the church are still moving on in perfect order up to the 9th of February, 1845. This day the saints met for worship at the stand in the open air weather, warm and dry. My family are all in good health. February 9th, 1845, and this week has passed off and all the affairs of the church have moved on prosperously. In the course of the weeks, a man by the name John Elliot, who some 2 years since kidnapped one Daniel Avery, a brother in the church. Elliot, with a band of mobbers, took Avery, bound him, took him across the Mississippi into Missouri, and put him in jail in the pretense of having, page 23, stolen a horse. Elliot and others kept him there, in jail, some months and for $70, liberated him. The said Elliot was one of the assassins of Joseph and Hiram Smith. Elliot came this week into Nauvoo in disguise as a spy, was recognized, arrested, examined before a court inquiry, and committed to prison. On his way from Nauvoo to Carthage, the county seat, while in the hands of the Sheriff Deming, he was suffered to make his escape. Myself and family all in good health. February 16th, 1845. Monday, February 17th, 1845, the saints in Nauvoo were all called together. The weather was pleasant. The object of the meeting was made known by W. W. Phelps. It was to organize the temporal affairs of the church. 12 men were chosen and called the Living Constitution. These 12 chose 3 of the 12 apostles, John Taylor, George A. Smith, and Amasa Lyman, to preside over the temporal affairs of all the church. Those men were appointed by the church without a dissenting voice. Able addresses were delivered by the 12 on the temporal affairs of the church. They urged the necessity of becoming one in feeling and in action in temporal things as well as spiritual. All the affairs of the church have moved on this week in good order and in union. The works pertaining to the Nauvoo temple are moving on rapidly these weeks. My family and children all well except Dimmick, Huntington, who is troubled with a fever sore on his leg. Weather cloudy, no frost, ground thawed out, and peace prevails in our midst. This 23 RD of February 1845, Mondana large meeting of the Agrudal, Agricultural and Manufacturing Society, part of community met together for the purpose of organizing an Agrudal, Agricultural, Association. Tuesday, 25th of February, a large meeting convened on the banks of the Mississippi for the purpose of commencing the dam and organized into different companies in order to build a dam and commenced quarrying stone for the dam. Here I will remark that I finished cutting stones for the body of the Nauvoo temple. I finished one of the stars for which I had credited to me $150. There have been meetings through the week for the purpose of organizing, page 24, different associations of trades. I have spent my time cutting stone at the Nauvoo temple. All the affairs of the church have moved on in good order and in peace. My family in good health this 2nd of March, 1845. The affairs of the church all move on in perfect harmony. The different quorums are improving daily in their state of organization. President Brigham Young has been sick this week. Amasa Lyman set out on Monday morning with Brother Daniel Spencer to visit a party who broke off from the church called the Emmetites, a party led off by one James Emmett. Said delegates, Lyman and Spencer, it is said, are instructed to organize said party, Emmetites, and have them stay where they are, as they have located themselves on the Iowa River, west of white inhabitants. My son John left on Tuesday morning to his sister living in Lima, Adams County, Illinois. Dimmick, Huntington, is still confined with his fever sore on his leg. I have labored this week as usual at cutting stone at the Nauvoo temple. The work is moving on rapidly at the temple. The stone are mostly cut for the temple. The weather is pleasant. Many are plowing gardens and some are commencing to garden. Our enemies or the mob are still at the present, as we have not as yet heard anything decisive from the legislature respecting the repeal of our Nauvoo charter. As the legislature have adjourned Monday of this week, we'll probably hear this day by mail, which is Sabbath day. My family all well in and comfortable up to this date. March 9, 1845, Monday, there came 4 men into Nauvoo from Augusta in Hancock County and attempted to arrest Benjamin Brackenbury with the pretense of perjury, but failed in arresting him. This was on the 10th of March. All things move on in harmony up to the 12th, pleasant weather, warm and dry. This day, I commenced setting stone on the Nauvoo temple, which is the 12th of March, 1845. In relation to Brackenbury, he was counseled to give himself up for trial. Accordingly, 10 brethren went to Augusta for trial. The case was adjourned to the 10th of March. My son John returned on the 13th, March 1845, from ? Page 25, left my son-in-law Norman Buell very sick. It is feared he has the quick consumption. Brother Amasa Lyman returned from the wilderness, from the Emmett party. He reported on the stand Sabbath day that the brethren with Emmett were in a suffering condition. Lyman counseled them to locate in the region where they were. For if they come back to Nauvoo, their inheritances were disposed of by themselves before they left, and, of course, they have nothing here in Nauvoo. The saints met for worship at the stand Sabbath day. They were addressed by Brother Lyman and Brother Brigham. Much said by Brother Brigham, young on temporal affairs. The Nauvoo charter is no more. We are left to take care of ourselves the best way we can as to protection from marauders, blacklegs, and whoremongers. All things move on in harmony in Nauvoo. My family all well. Oliver B. Huntington is to set out this morning for Lima, Illinois, with Brother Morley. Dimmick's fever sore is improving. All is well in Nauvoo this 17th of March, 1845. Sunday morning, 23rd of March, 1845, I have nothing very particular to mention of events in the week past. The weather has been cool, and have not sat many stone on the Nauvoo temple. The weather has been too cool to work on the wall but little. Much counseling the week past on the Great Western Expedition or Company. It is expected we will set out soon after conference for to explore the West. to find a place for the church. An organization is now going into ? For the safety of the citizens of Nauvoo by way of guarding the city by night, as the legislature of Illinois have taken our city charters from us and left us without protection by law. All the affairs of the church are moving in good order this week past in Nauvoo. My son-in-law at Lima is recovering from his sickness. We hear Dimmock's fever sore is improving. My family are all in good health up to this 23rd of March, 1845. Monday morning, March 31st, 1845, and the week past has passed off in peace. In the city, page 26, good order has prevailed with the saints. Business round the Nauvoo temple has progressed rapidly. Much property by was ? To tithing has been given. I have not labored on the temple now for 2 weeks. 1. Have been attending to my gardens. 1. Shall commence on the temple this morning. My birthday was on the 28th of this month, March. 1. Am 61 years of age. My family all well this 31st of March. Weather warm with some rain. Tuesday morning and on through the week weather cool and fine for business. The work progresses rapidly on and about the temple. A number of agents have returned in the course of this week, bringing with them money and property in abundance as tithing from the churches in different states. The brethren are coming fast to attend conference. All the affairs of the church are in a prosperous situation the week past. News from Carthage: the mob have warned Mr. Backenstows, our senator to the legislature, to leave on Saturday or they would kill him. Brother Moore was accidentally shot in the breast with a pistol, not thought mortal. Norman Buell and wife came here to attend conference. My children are all here in Nauvoo except Chauncey, who is in New York State and not a member of the church. My family and friends all in good health. The weather this 6th of April, 1845, cool and pleasant. 1. Have spent my time the week past cutting stone for the Nauvoo temple from the 6th to the 13th. All the affairs of the church have moved on harmoniously. The work on the temple progresses rapidly. The enemy around in the country are at present still as to publish opposition. They, the enemies, are holding private meetings and have sworn to have no dealings with Mormons. The church took a vote at conference. We would have as little to deal with them as possible. We voted not to help them in harvest, nor let our families work with them. As the nation have rejected the church, the kingdom is now rent from them. The elders will not preach any more to this nation until they have wiped up the blood of the prophets they have spilt. The church voted at conference to go on and build the Nauvoo house this summer. My family and children all well, except Zena, page 27, is affected with the ague in the face. Weather warm and dry this 13th of April, 1845. Monday morning business commences with animation and energy through the city and continues through the week. The work on the temple progresses rapidly. Peace and harmony prevails. One would notice that 2 gentlemen arrived in the city on Saturday. The one, the United States Marshal with 20 summons for the brethren, on an old concern which had been settled in Kirtland, Ohio. 5 of the brethren named had been murdered by the mob. However, it was counseled to let them serve their summons, for the church would not pay any attention to them. Thus ends the week, my family all well. Sunday 20th, April 1845, Brother John Taylor preached and come out bold and plain against the measures of government as respect the unjust treatment to the people and the church in murdering our brethren. Taylor defied and damned them. This week has passed away, all things moving in harmony. The work on the Nauvoo temple still is moving rapidly. We have commenced setting the stairs and have also commenced building a wall around the block on which the temple stands. My family all well this 27th of April. This week has passed off. All the affairs of the church, both spiritually and temporally, have moved on in perfect harmony. The work on the temple has progressed rapidly. The stone, if the weather is good, will soon be set. The church are owned and blessed of the Lord. My family, my children's families, all in good health this 4th of May, 1845. Monday morning all the business of the inhabitants of the city in Nauvoo commenced their usual steady courses of business. All peace and good order prevails with the saints in Nauvoo. The business pertaining to the Nauvoo temple in all its various branches move on in good order and with mighty power. I will mention a horrid murder was committed in Iowa about 20 miles west of us on the night of the 10th of this month, May. 3 men entered the house of a Pennsylvania Dutchman in the dead of night. Their object, to take from the page 28, man of the house, $2,500 the old man had in his possession. A battle ensued. The robbers were defeated in their attempt to get the money. The old man was stabbed to the heart and died instantly. A young man was badly wounded. It is hoped he will recover. The murderers, it is supposed, fled to Nauvoo Saturday night, the same night as the murder. The next day, the murderers were arrested by the Brethren. They have since been delivered into the hands of the sheriff of Iowa, Lee County, where court was in session. My family all well. Sabbath day 11th of May 1845, meeting at the stand. Thousands of saints assembled for the meeting. Brother Brigham Young delivered an appropriate discourse. Monday morning, all well in Nauvoo. Business resumes its healthy state of things. All things roll on with mighty power in and about the Nauvoo temple. The wall is almost completed. Sabbath morning, the steamer Saron touched at the mouth of Maine's wrecked land. A good number of brethren with 3 small cannon. It is said we have 24 to 12-pounders in Nauvoo. We have ammunition and arms sufficient to defend ourselves from mob violence. My family all well except Henry Jacobs is not dangerous. Thus ends the time up to the 18th, May 1845. May 19th, Monday morning, weather fair, all well in the city. The great business of city commences its operation with some energy that it has had in times past. The work at and about the temple moves on with power. Perfect harmony prevails in all its various parts pertaining to the great work, which yet requires some 200 men in all the work pertaining to the house. This week on Monday, the Circuit Court commenced its session in Carthage, Hancock County, Illinois, which causes some considerable excitement in all the region round about, as the murderers of Joseph Smith and Hiram Smith are to have their trials. Judge Young of Quincy, Illinois, presides, and Mr. Josiah Lamborn, Stadio's attorney, for the people sent here by the governor, Thomas Ford, were here all the week until Saturday, impaneling a jury. Saturday commenced the examination of 2 witnesses and adjourned until on Monday, the 26th of May, 1845. This has brought to the saints an event, page 29, of great interest. To the saints in all the world, that is on Saturday, the 24th of May, 1845, the last cornerstone of the temple was completed or laid at precisely 6 o'clock in the morning. The authorities of the church, the 12, High Council, and others, as also the band, were on the wall. When the last cornerstone was set, the band played several tunes, and all the congregation shouted, "Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna to God and the Lamb. Amen, amen, and amen." The congregation shouted 3 times, dismissed and retired, and rested that day from their labors. My family all well up to this day, May 26th. The time has now arrived, according to order of courts, for the Circuit Court to sit in Carthage, which is the time for the trial of the murderers of our brothers Joseph and Hiram Smith. A time which many thought a great excitement would exist, but to the joy of many has terminated in peace. The court has turned out to be a perfect mob court. Judge Young of Quincy presided. Lawyer Lamborn, the state's attorney, was for the people, and after adducing all the testimony necessary to convict the men, the jury brought in a bill of verdict of not guilty. The saints are all pleased. The 3rd Monday in June, 1845, a special court is to be held for the purpose of trying the murder of Hiram Smith. All is peace and tranquility in Nauvoo. The house, Nauvoo Temple, is in rapid progress. The season is favorable for crops. Everything looks favorable the incoming season. My family all well up to this date. June 1st, 1845, and saints met at the stand this morning, and were addressed by brothers Heber Kimball, John Taylor, and Brigham Young. They spoke comforting words to the saints. Thousands were present. I am still cutting stone, shall soon finish my work on the Nauvoo Temple. The timbers are going up fast into the tower and roof. The roof will soon be on. Brother Brigham said this day that he believed before the snow flies, the roof will be on and the saints will hold meetings in the house this winter. Page 30, June 4th, 1845. I seat myself again after having an opportunity of assembling myself with the saints this morning. We heard a discourse from Elder Serene on the death of two little boys who were in a sand pit at play. The bank caved in, covered them, and they were killed. The week past has passed away pleasantly with the saints. All has been peace in Nauvoo. The Nauvoo temple is progressing rapidly. The arsenal is in rapid progress. The stone will, I think, all be laid this week coming. Everything is in a rapid state of improvement to guard against the enemy. That is, that we may be in perfect readiness to defend ourselves with all kinds of weapons of war, especially such as were taken from us by the authorities of the state or by the order of the governor. Theodore Turley has established the manufacturing of 15 shooters. We have more cannon than they took from us. Never was a greater union with the saints than at the present. Truly the Lord is favoring Zion. The weather is fine, though somewhat dry. Crops look fine. All the wastelands in and about Nauvoo have been plowed and are in crops and have not been injured with the frost. My family and all my children in good health this 4th of June, 1845. Monday morning all is well in Zion. All the affairs in the city have moved on in good order, in peace and quietness, through the week. The Nauvoo temple has progressed with great rapidity. I have cut stone for the week past. William D. Huntington and wife went to Lima to visit his sister. Found them all well. My family all well up to this date. June 16th, 1845, Monday morning all well in Zion. Prosperity attends the saints temporally and spiritually. The work on the temple progresses rapidly. The roof will soon be covered. In fact, the Nauvoo temple soon will be enclosed. Calculation now is to build a tabernacle on the west end of the temple, twice as large as the temple, for the purpose of holding meetings, as the temple, page 31, will no more than convene the priesthood. Weather fine, frequent showers, a growing time, and a great prospect of a plentiful harvest this fall. My family all well up to this date. June 22nd, 1845, Monday morning all is well with the saints. All business moves on with power, even the power of God, which is manifest in all things pertaining to the great work of the building up of Zion, the gathering of the saints in these last days. The week has passed off pleasantly. The work on the temple and all pertaining to it has moved on rapidly. Through the week, we'll say on Monday evening, a man by the name of Arvine Hodge, who belonged at Mechevesville, some 20 miles from Nauvoo, was murdered here in Nauvoo by the hand of some ruffians, as Hodge was supposed to be of the same gang. On the next day, which was Tuesday, the big sheriff by the name of Deming got into a dispute with a doctor marshal and shot him dead on the spot. Deming was the sheriff of Hancock County. The deed was done at Carthage, the county seat. Deming has been arrested. A bill of indictment was found by the grand jury. Deming is bailed to October term, as the circuit court was, at the time of the murder of Deming, for trial of the murder of Hiram Smith, and as there was no prosecuting attorney appeared against the murderers, of course the murderers were discharged. Nolan for the K. Mormons. My family all well up to this date, June 29th, 1845. July 1st, 1845. All the affairs in Nauvoo move on through this week in perfect harmony. There was many visitors here from St. Louis on the 4th of July. No event of note transpired with the church through the week. I will say that on the 5th day of July, I cut the last stone I have to cut on the Nauvoo temple. The last work I done was to finish the west chimney top on the south side of the temple. I have cut stone 3 years and a half and worked one summer before I went cutting stone at stone masoning. I helped to lay, page 32, the first stone in the house and cut one of the last stones. 1. Have enjoyed good health most of the time I have worked on the temple. My family all well excepting my companion, whose health is not good. July 6th, 1845, Monday morning all well in Zion. Everything has moved on in harmony and in good order in Zion through this week. The weather is very hot. Fine growing time. Wheat harvest is coming good in Hancock County this season. All the crops on the ground look fine. The prospect is the saints will have an abundance for their support this season. The work on the temple is going on with great rapidity, as also the Nauvoo house. My family all in good health. Exception is my companion, whose health is not good yet. Saturday evening, July 12th, 1845. July 20th, 1845, Sunday evening after meeting the past week has passed off in peace in Nauvoo. All the affairs of the church, both spiritually and temporally, have passed off in good order. The Nauvoo temple is progressing fast. We have commenced shingling the roof. The font is in a state of finishing. The oxen are to be made of stone, will soon be commenced. Our enemies in Hancock County and vicinity are at the present still. The prayers of the saints is that they may, the enemy, be still, until we have finished the temple. 1. We'll notice the Hodge boys, as they were called, were executed on the 15th of July. The bodies of the Hodges were, by request of their sister, brought to Nauvoo for burial. Weather fine. Wheat harvest has come in fine. All the crops on the ground look fine. My family all in good health. Sunday evening, July 20th, 1845. Monday opens to the church pleasant and beautiful. All affairs of the church move on through the week in good order and prosperous. Tuesday morning, I left for Lima to visit my daughter and family. Found all in good health. 1. Returned on Friday, traveled home 32 miles on foot in my 62 year of age. July 26th, 1845. Emmy's son Oliver set out for the state of New York in company with, page 33, brother Neil and his son who live near Lockport. My family all in good health. July 27th, 1845. Again, the church commences another week under favorable circumstances in all respects, both spiritual as well as temporal. The Nauvoo temple as well as the Nauvoo house are progressing. It is a healthy time in the city. I commenced work on the Nauvoo house the 29th of July. 1. Am calculating to work $40 to make my second share in the house. August 1st, 1845. Prosperity still attends the saints up to the 3rd, which is Sunday. It is pleasant and fair. A large congregation of saints assemble this day at the stand for worship. President Brigham Young spoke on the subject of the resurrection and warned the saints not to forget the voice of the Lord whenever he speaks by way of commandment. Young touched on many subjects of great importance, temporal as well as spiritual. My family all in good health, as also my son-in-law Norman Buell and wife and youngest son, who arrived in town this morning from Lima. Their family all well. August 3rd, 1845, and this week has passed off in good order. All the public works have moved on in good order. The Nauvoo house is beginning to show the energy of the church in carrying out the revelations of God. There is, I suppose now, 100 men in employ on and about the house. The week coming I expect there will be more done, as it is expected they will commence laying the walls of the house above the basement story. Agreeable to a request made on the 3rd of August 1845 by President Brigham Young of the church to make a bee and haul wood to the Nauvoo brickyard, there was more than 100 teams on the road hauling wood. An election for county officers was held on the same day, in which there was more than 1,900 votes taken at the polls. The health of the people in the city good for the time of the year, for it is the sickly time of the year. My family all in good health. My connections all well except 2 of my grandchildren, page 34, who are sick, not dangerous as I suppose. The congregation of Israel met at the stand. Weather fine. We were addressed by W. W. Phelps. All is in peace in Nauvoo up to this date. August 10th, 1845, Monday morning comes in fair. All business commences in life and animation. The Nauvoo temple and Nauvoo house are in progression. All the affairs of the church, both spiritually and temporally, are in a flourishing condition. Good order prevails in the church through this week. Sunday morning pleasant. The saints meet at the stand were addressed by Brother William Smith. It was on the spiritual wife subject. Not interesting to the saints. Some sickness and deaths in the city. My family all in good health. August 17th, 1845, Monday morning all business commences in the city with usual liveliness. The temple is in a rapid state of improvements. It's sturdy. The last of the tower or the top of the tower was raised, which was the 23rd of August. The shingling of the roof, which was completed some time before this, put a veto on one of Sidney Rigdon's false prophecies that was that the last shingle never would be put onto the house in consequence of our enemies. But thanks be to God, no harm is as yet suffered to hinder the work of the Lord. On Monday morning, which was the 18th of August, 1845, the 12 and the committee of the Nauvoo House, with a large company of bricklayers and laborers, appeared on the basement story of the Nauvoo House, at which time the first brick was laid on the southeast corner of the house. 1. Will say before the work was commenced, Elder Heber C. Kimball made one of the most appropriate prayers on the occasion. After which, the first brick was laid by Brother Rowley, an American from Boston. I will mention a circumstance which occurred on the job. Lucian Woodworth has been the former architect on the house and commenced superintending the business on recommencing, page 35, business this second time. But in consequence of his commencing his former course of habits, that is in abusing the men by cursing, swearing, and damning the men in an abusive manner, a council was called of the 12 and Woodworth was discharged from the work and William Weeks, the architect on the Nauvoo temple, put in his place. The work moves on pleasantly. A fine beginning has been made this week. Fine weather, though somewhat sickly in the city. My family and all my connections are in good health up to this date. 24th of August 1845, Monday morning come in pleasant. All the business of the city, that is building, of buildings, is suspended agreeable to a resolution taken at the stand by the congregation of the saints, that they would lay by all buildings and all the brick masons and carpenters should go to the Nauvoo House and work until the walls of the house are up. Accordingly, something like 200 men labored on the house this week. The first story was half put up, which is to be 14 feet. I labored in the big field cutting hay through this week. I cut my hay on a piece of land which I have bought in the big field, which is 14 acres. Peace prevails in the city this week. Some are sickly. My family all in good health up to this date. August 31st, 1845, Null business recommences this Monday morning, which is September 1st, with life and energy. 200 or 300 men are engaged about the Nauvoo House through this week. The first story is about completed 14 feet in height. The Nauvoo temple in rapid state of finish will soon be in a situation to commence giving the endowment to the elders, that they may this season commence going to the nations of the earth prepared to preach with more power than ever have been. On the third day of this month, September 1845, a severe hailstorm passed over Nauvoo which broke some glass. On the 5th of this month, September 1845, a great feast was held at the big field by the page 36 proprietors of the same. 7 of the 12 were there. 600 persons dined on the occasion. Some sickness yet in the city. All the saints blessed as yet with peace. The common enemy, that is the mob, yet still. My family all well up to this date. September 7th, 1845, Monday morning comes in pleasant. All business commences with life and animation through the city. The Nauvoo temple is in rapid progress as to finishing. The Nauvoo House is progressing rapidly. There is in the neighborhood of 200 men at work on the house. All business moving on in the city pleasantly up to the 10th of September, when an express arrived in Nauvoo from Lima or the Morley branch, stating the mob had commenced burning buildings, turning women and children out of doors and burning their houses, barns, stacks of grain. They're also driving off cattle and other creatures. The mob continued to burn through this week in different branches. The sheriff of the county called on the brethren to assist him in dispersing the mob. Accordingly, 50 men turned out to his assistance. A great excitement broke out in the county. Thus ends this week. My family all well. Sabbath day, September 14th, 1845, nth congregation assembled for worship. Weather fine, congregation large. President, Brigham Young addressed the congregation in the forenoon. Dismissed the congregation for meeting in the afternoon. He requested the males only, as there was business to be attended to of a temporal nature. We met in the afternoon, and took into consideration those who were suffering in consequence of having been burned out by the mob. Voted to go with all the teams to Lima branch and haul grain to Nauvoo. Accordingly, some 100 teams turned out to haul grain on Monday. The mob is still burning and There is no one to hinder them until tome. Thomas C. Sharp, the editor of a paper printed at Warsaw, Illinois, said publicly that they were burning and meant to continue so to do until they, the mob, had burnt out all the Mormons in Hancock County. They had been burning more than a week. The news had reached far and wide. The mob were burning, page 37, the Mormons' property and no resistance on the part of the Mormons. Public opinion had become in favor of the churches taking measures to stop or disperse the mob. Sheriff Backenstoes, with 200 or 300 men, set out in different directions. They caught some in the act of burning buildings, dispersed them, shot 4, wounded others, and drove some out of the state. Some of the mob were put in prison. This week all business was stopped in the city, except the temple. The Legion was called out and put to camp duty, and stood in readiness to go at a minute's warning. Saturday night the troops all returned under command of Sheriff Backenstoes and man wounded or hurt by the mob. In all the difficulty, one young man by the name of Phippen was shot by accident and died in a short time. The saints are in good spirits, though many, in consequence of being burned out of their houses, are left in an unpleasant situation, though they have raised food to eat for man and beast this winter. The congregation met this morning at the Grove, and were addressed by President Brigham Young in an appropriate manner. All in good spirits. President Young said Sheriff Backenstoes would need a company of men in service for the purpose of keeping the peace in the county and to arrest those who have been engaged in burning buildings and cause men who are disposed not to keep the law to keep the peace in Hancock County. In the same time, exertions have been made in Adams County by the sheriff and the court to suppress the mob, as the inhabitants of that county, adjoining Hancock, were engaged in the mob. Many of them have been arrested and is expected will be dealt with according to the merits of their crime. My family in good health up to this date. September 21st, 1845, Monday morning, whole city in arms. Sheriff Backenstoes has command of a posse sufficient to command or control the mob in the county. The sheriff has a guard in Carthage stationed in the courthouse. The mob are, most of them, in Missouri and in Iowa with their families. The saints through this week are engaged doing military duty. A report is now in circulation that, page 38, the governor has troops now in Carthage under command of General Harding to assist our sheriff on suppressing the mob. Thus this week closes up. The saints in good spirits. My family all well except my wife, who is sick with chills and fever. September 28th, 1845, Monday morning, all things as usual, though I will say the sheriff sent Saturday for 30 men to come to Carthage and relieve the guard which has been at Carthage the week past. Accordingly, 30 men set out Sabbath morning and on Monday were all discharged and arrived in Nauvoo Monday evening. Tuesday morning, General Harding, with about 300 men, arrived in the city about 12 o'clock. They searched the Nauvoo Temple, the Masonic Hall, and the Nauvoo Stable, as they say, for dead men charged to have been killed by the Mormons. The troop stayed 2 miles down the river. Wednesday morning, they returned into the city, visited or viewed the temple, behaved civil, and had an interview with the 12. The troops have returned this afternoon down the river to their campground. All is quiet in the city. This October 1st, Thursday. October 2nd, 1845, Nan Express came from Carthage. The mob were gathering there. General Harding accordingly left Nauvoo for Carthage with his troops, reserving with him 100 men. Saturday, General Harding left Carthage for Warsaw. All is peace and quiet in the city. My family all in good health up to this date. October 5th, Sunday morning, saints met for worship in the Nauvoo Temple, which is enclosed from top to bottom, fitted up for general conference. There was in the temple this day nearly 5,000 people. We were addressed in the morning by President Brigham Young, an interesting discourse. Others spoke in the afternoon. The subject of removing from Nauvoo was much spoken of. We were then adjourned for Monday 10 o'clock a.m. Congregation met, conference organized for business. The authorities, page 39, of the church were presented before the conference and were all accepted and approved except William Smith, who was cut off from the church as one of the 12 and as patriarch for the church. 5 companies were organized via a company called the 12's Company, which company I belong to, myself and family. The other 4 are led by Samuel Bent, Alpheus Cutler, Reynolds Cahoon, and brother, Isaac Morley. Many other companies have been formed and will continue to be formed until all of the church who wish to go may have an opportunity of uniting themselves to a company. This day the church voted unanimously to go en masse from this place to one hereafter designated. The saints voted, also unanimously, to use all of their ability, property, and influence to help all who have a desire to go from this place to the west where white men do not live and where the whites do not have jurisdiction. The saints received an appropriate address from Parley Pratt, setting forth the reasons why we should leave this place and the advantages to be derived in leaving. Much good instruction given by the 12. We adjourned till Tuesday 10 o'clock a.m. Met, according to adjournment. Conference went into business. An able address was delivered by Heber C. Kimball, and also an able address was delivered by Elder Amos Lyman. Conference adjourned for afternoon or at 2 o'clock p.m. At intermission, a party of General Harding's troops as supposed to be were in town. Their business not known. Neither would they give any account of their business on being interrogated. The city has been thrown into excitement. Conference adjourned until Wednesday 10 o'clock a.m. if all is quiet. Tuesday, October 7th, 1845, Wednesday conference met, opened, provided to business, and closed all business. Adjourned until April 6th, 1846. The governor's troops are still maneuvering in the county. They came in on Thursday, took one man for stealing as they say. They tried to take another, but failed to get him. The same day, General Harding left with Sheriff Backenstoes for Quincy, Illinois, to be tried for killing Worrell at the railroads. They took with them George Miller, John Parker, page 40, William and Edwin Cutler. All, it is said, are at Quincy and will be difficult for them to get away. It is said the troops shot at Sheriff Backenstoes on his way to Quincy for trial. The mob are much excited. It is said they are gathering at Carthage. It is expected they will soon be in Nauvoo with a posse in pursuit of some of the brethren. All business now dull in the city. The people are in suspense, looking for a day of trials. I can see men on the top of the Lord's house looking out for the enemy. This is now Saturday noon or 12 o'clock a.m. My family all in good health, though very many sick in the city. October 11th, 1845. Sunday morning, October 12th, 1845, and congregation met in the temple for worship. We were addressed by Heber C. Kimball and others on the subject of removing to the west. Other leaders were appointed, making in all 25. Myself received an appointment to lead a company amounting to 100 families whose names I have got in the course of this week, and all the 25 companies I expect are full. All things pertaining to the saints appears to moving on favorable. The mob or the common enemy are at the present still. Troops are still kept in the county to keep peace. Saturday the 18th, my son Oliver B. Huntington left Nauvoo to go to his wife's father near Lockport, New York State, to get his wife and her father's family to this place in order to be in readiness to leave with the church in the spring. My family all well this 19th of October, Sunday morning. Monday morning, October 20th, 1845, and this day the court is to sit, which will be attended to with great interest as the mob are determined to annoy the saints with writs and drag the brethren to prison and to death. The case of Sheriff Backenstoes, who ordered Worrell shot as he is charged with by the mob. It is of great interest with the mob, as they have that, the death of Worrell, as a pretext to murder Backenstoes for having fulfilled his office in calling out the militia on dispersing the mob when burning the houses of the saints. Worrell was shot while, with others, page 41, he was pursuing the sheriff with great speed for the express purpose to shoot him, Backenstoes. The court has been in session through the week. The old case of the riot, as is termed, that is the destruction of the press in Joseph's day, has been in court until this week and the brethren all discharged. The grand jury found a bill of willful murder against Backenstoes. The court adjourned Saturday until Monday next, when Backenstoes is to have his trial. The church have been under the necessity of keeping a strong guard through the county through the week past to keep the mob from coming in and taking the brethren with their vexatious writs. Rapid operations are now making to prepare for the move west. My family all well this morning. Norman and Presinda have this morning arrived from Lima. 1. Am now about to go to meeting. Sunday morning, 10 o'clock a.m., October 26th, 1845, went to the Nauvoo temple and met with the thousands assembled. We were addressed by Elders Hyde and Pratt on the great subject of removing to the west. I commenced to organize my company. Monday morning the brethren returned to Carthage with Backenstoes. Much figuring and shuffling about his case at length. Backenstoes took a change in venue, is to have his trial at Peoria, Illinois, in 5 weeks. It was thought it was the calculation to have assassinated Backenstoes, but were prevented in consequence of the close attention of the saints who accompanied him at the court. The court adjourned. All the brethren are now clear of vexatious suits. This 27th October Tuesday morning Major Warren, with his troops, have arrived in Nauvoo. Have put up at the mansion. It is said Warren has a bundle of writs for the heads of the church. It is feared by myself, the High Council may be included, but I hope not. All is still at present in Nauvoo. Tuesday 2 o'clock p.m. Wednesday all peaceable in Nauvoo. The emigrating companies are making rapid, page 42, progress in procuring timber for their wagons. Thursday had a meeting of my company and organized my company which was in the 29th of October, 1845. The mob are still as for what I know. My family all well. October 28th, Sunday morning all is well. All the affairs in the city are going well. Sunday morning, November 2nd, 1845, Nth Church met in the temple, and were addressed by Elders Hyde and Kimball. Monday morning all business is commenced with energy and in union. The saints are much engaged in the great work of preparing to emigrate in the spring. All affairs of the church, both spiritually and temporally, moved on through the week past in good order and with great speed. My family all well. Monday morning, November 10th. Tuesday morning all the different branches of business such as the temple, all companies for emigration are moving on rapidly through this week up to Saturday night. I went into the woods this week on Thursday morning and in 3 days, with 5 men of us and 2 or 3 boys, we cut the timber for 7 wagons. Saturday night the mob set fire to a stack of straw in the Lima branch at the Hancock neighborhood. A number of the brethren came out of the house to put out the fire and were fired on by the mob and killed Edmund Durfee, whose corpse was brought up to Nauvoo on Sunday to be buried. My family all well up to this date, November 17th, 1845. Tuesday morning opens to the church pleasant. All business moves on in peace and harmony. In the city through this week, all the people appear to be engaged in emigration operations. My company have got their timber for their wagons mostly in the city. The captains of the emigration companies met this evening of the 23rd at the Music Hall by request of, page 43, President Brigham Young to receive instructions in the preparation of ourselves for the journey. The health of the people is improving with the saints. My family all in good health up to this date, November 23rd, 1845. Tuesday morning all is well in Nauvoo. The saints are now at rest as to our enemies troubling of us at present. The saints are making rapid progress in wagon making. I have this week got a room in the Nauvoo house enclosed for a shop to make wagons for my company. The Nauvoo temple or theater story in the temple is now in readiness for to go to giving the saints their endowment. That part of the house which is in readiness will be dedicated tomorrow or on the 1st day of December. My family all in good health up to this date, November 30th. Monday morning peace and harmony prevails in the city. A great exertion is now made in the city in making wagons for the removal to the west. My company is making good progress in the wagon business and in making a mill to be propelled by horsepower. I think we shall have our mill in operation in 1 or 2 weeks. A fair prospect of selling the city, or a portion of it, to the Catholics. My family all well. December 7th, 1845. This week has passed off. Nothing has taken place to harm the peace of the saints. The work of endowment is going on in power. My family all well up to this December 14th. Monday morning opens to the saints pleasant. All things move on pleasant through this week. The work of giving endowment is great. It Stated in the temple this day that 560 had received their endowment up to this date, December 21st. My family all in good health. Monday morning business commences as usual through the city. The labors at the temple is moving on with great power, many receiving their endowment. Tuesday or a deputy United States Marshal made his appearance in page 44, this place with some of the Carthage troops, with a writ for Brigham Young. They took their station at the door of the temple, watching for Brigham. William Miller was sent out with Brigham's cloak on. Upon making the marshal's, inquiry for Young, Miller was represented to be the man accordingly said. The marshal stepped up and made a prisoner of Miller, took him off to Carthage before he found out his mistake. Miller accordingly was discharged. Since that time, the marshal has been lurking around in the city, watching for the brethren. Writs have been served on 7 of the brethren on the old press concern this week. This day I have met with the first quorum in the Nauvoo temple. The High Council meets steadily every evening at 6 o'clock. My family all well up to this date, December 28, 1845. All business of the church has moved on in good order through the week past. The labor of giving endowment in the temple has been prospered. The enemy have not troubled the church the week past. The brethren have been constantly on the move on horseback through the city in every direction, which has prevented the mob from strolling over our city. I have met with the High Council most of the evenings the week past in the temple of the Lord for prayer. This day, a number of the brethren met at Brother Peter Hawes' upper room for prayer. Myself and wife present. My family all well up to this date, January 4th, 1846. Monday morning this week has passed off in harmony. Good order has prevailed through the week. The work of endowment has gone on in power through this week. My family all well up to this date, January 12th. Tuesday morning this week has passed off pleasantly through the week. A great number have received their endowment. My family all in good health up to January 19th. 20th, January 1846, and this week has passed off in peace. The work of endowment has rolled on with almighty power. I have continued to work in the house of the Lord through the week. My family all well, January 26th. Page 45, Monday morning all is moving on well with the church. Monday, 12 o'clock, a council was called. The captains of companies were ordered to warn all those who had volunteered to stand as minute men to be ready and on hand. Wednesday morning all the work stopped in the Nauvoo temple. I labored in the house until Wednesday night. Thursday morning all in suspense, expecting every minute to have to put out, that is, the authorities of the church. My family all well. Presinda and her children here from Lima. 29th, January 1846. All is peace in Nauvoo. The brethren are preparing to leave February 1st, 1846. Orders has been given for the 12 High Council trustees and trust, the old police, and the presiding of the 70s and C, to be in readiness together with many others immediately. February 5th, 1846, and some wagons with families have gone over the Mississippi River. 7th, February 1846, Emmy family in Nauvoo. All well Sunday morning. The saints met at the grove in front of the Nauvoo temple for the last time to be addressed by the 12. Much instruction was given by President Brigham Young in relation to our leaving Nauvoo and of emigrating to the wilderness. A large congregation of saints were present and it was a solemn time. A time when there is a great number breaking off and following a false prophet by the name of J.J. Strang, and many are following him rather than the 12. My tithing and all my business all settled up in Nauvoo and I am ready to leave. Expect to leave Monday, February 9th, 1846. Page 46. August 13th, 1845 Nauvoo Committee CM $. 15th by Beefshank 06, by Beefshank 10. 24th by 51U2 LBS Beef 4 cents per LB 22. September 10th by 51U2 LBS of Beef 4 cents per LB 27. By 1QT Molasses 13. 11 by a pail of barley 38. Buy an earthen plate 13. Buy 2 pounds of beef 08. Buy 6¼ pounds of beef 4 cents per lb 25. 15. Buy shank 06. 18. Buy 6 pounds of beef 3 cents 18. 22. Buy 8 pounds of salt 2 cents 10 pounds 31. Buy bottle Indian tonic 100. Buy 5¼ pounds of beef 4 cents 21. October 21st. Buy 14 pounds of salt 1½ cents per lb 21. February 9th, 1846. A brief sketch of the travel of William Huntington and his family in company with the saints who left Nauvoo in the winter of 1846. February 9th. I left my house in the city of Joseph at 12:00 p.m. with my family. I crossed the Mississippi 9 o'clock at night, stayed on the bank of the river myself that night. My family went in company the same night to Father Tanner's. I followed them the next day in company with my son John. We remained there 1 week. In the same time the church have continued to cross the river day and night and encamped 6 miles from the river on Sugar Creek. On Tuesday, 2:00 p.m., a event transpired. One of the flatboats that was employed in carrying the brethren across the river sprang a leak with some 30 persons consisting of men, women, and children with 1 wagon, 2 yoke of oxen, 2 cows, and 1 calf. The boat sunk, rested on a sandbar in 5 feet of water. The loading all floated in the Mississippi River. 1 yoke of oxen was drowned with the calf. All the people were saved with the remainder of the cattle. Much of the goods were lost. Thomas Grover, one of the High Council, was the principal sufferer. At the same time, the alarm of fire was given at the Nauvoo Temple. The roof of the temple was discovered to be on fire. A mighty exertion was made. The fire was soon extinguished. It burned a hole through the roof 10 feet square. All things remain calm and peaceable in Nauvoo through the present week. I have been over, page 47, to Nauvoo twice in the week. My son, Dimmock B. Huntington, with his family crossed the river, went into the Tanner neighborhood. It was thought best for him to return back and come on in the spring in company with my son, William D. Huntington, and my daughter, Prescindia Buell of Lima. February 14th, Saturday night, 1846, and I stayed with my son, William D. Huntington. My family all well Sunday. My family yet at Father Tanner's. Monday 16th went to the camp in company with Amasa Lyman. Was counseled to move our families to the camp. Tuesday 17th now all moved to the camp on Sugar Creek, which was the main camp. Wednesday, February 18th, 1846, a more full organization was entered into with the camp. Myself and my family were organized into Amasa Lyman's company. This day the artillery arrived in camp. All is pleasant and in good order in camp. No opposition from the inhabitants. The camp are waiting here for some brethren to come from Nauvoo. Brother Whitney and Clayton not over. My family all in good health. 18th Thursday President Brigham Young went back to Nauvoo on business. 19th severe snowstorm commenced and snowed for 24 hours. 20th very cold. Snow 6 inches deep. More pleasant brethren in good health and in good spirits. Brother Brigham still in Nauvoo. Saturday 21st, February 1846, all well in camp. 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th weather cold with some snow. The health of the people in camp remains good through the week. February 28 Teach NMY family all in good health. This day I went to Nauvoo. Visited my children. They were all in good health. Left Nauvoo for the last time for the present. March 1st, 1846, and this day an order was given to leave the present encampment. Accordingly, the 12 with the most of the camp struck their tents and rolled out. We went 6 miles and encamped for the night. Weather pleasant. Amasa Lyman's company remain on the ground through the night in consequence of 2 teams, page 48, not being in camp. Monday morning, March 2 and weather good. Our company left the camp 15 minutes before 10 o'clock, traveled 15 miles, and camped on a small creek on the Farmington Road. Found people friendly. Gave us straw for our cattle. 3rd March, Tuesday morning weather good. Our teams balked hindered, ? Left camp 10:30. Overtook the main body of the camp which left Sugar Creek Sabbath evening and took a more southern route. We fell in with them at Farmington 2:30. Arrived on the camping ground with President Young 5:30. We camped on a piece of land, and the brethren took to chop the timber and fence the samen. Wednesday, March 4th, 1846, weather good. Orders is to remain here this day, the 5th, and rest our teams. Friday, 6th, orders again for the 1st Company to move on. Left camp 15 minutes past 10 o'clock, crossed the Des Moines at Bonaparte 5 minutes past 1. Had an extreme bad road on the bottom and up the bluff. President John Smith turned over his wagon. Damage, but trifling, injured Sister Smith slightly. Camped on the prairie. Had no fire, ate a cold supper, pitched our tent, and had some straw from a citizen. Traveled 6 miles. Saturday morning 7th, March 1846, moved on. Arrived at Indian Creek 15 minutes before 11. Stayed all night. Sunday, / Saturday morning 8th, left camp 20 minutes before 9, traveled 8 miles. Arrived at Dr. Albert's plantation 30 minutes past 1. We pitched our tents in his timber. Spent a night pleasantly. A. Lyman, A. Bybee, and H. Rollins went in company with Dr. Albert to the camp where the band had stopped. The doctor and the other gentlemen were well pleased with the performance of the band. Sunday morning. Weather pleasant. A. Lyman and H. Rollins left, went to visit the camp on ahead where President Young was to get intelligence as to further operations. We were counseled to move on the same day. Page 49. Left Albert's 30 minutes past 1, passed Bishop Whitney Camp at a creek where Joseph Kingsbury's wife was confined on the 8th with a fine sun. Arrived in camp at Richardson's Point, Van Buren County, Iowa Territory, 15 minutes past 5. Captain Alfred Bybee's company, or the 10, which he had the charge, or the 2nd Tennevee. Lyman's company arrived in camp with us 30 minutes past 8. I will note here that I have the charge of the 1st 10 and A. Bybee the 2nd and A. Lyman's company. I note here also that the camp have taken jobs of different kinds of work, such as building houses, chopping timber, slitting rails, husking corn, and etc., for which we have received such things as was necessary for sustenance of man and our teams. Monday 8th, correct date is the 9th, weather good. An order given for all men who were able to chop and split rails to go to work at the above mention. Tuesday 10th, orders came for George A. Smith and Amasa Lyman's companies to move on 15 miles. Accordingly, we sent off A. Bybee's 10 as they were principally ox teams. Soon after they set out, it began to rain. The remainder of the companies remained. It continued to rain Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Thursday, our camping ground was overflowed with water and mud. We removed our camp to drier ground on the 12th. Friday morning, wind north, more cool. Windy through the day. Mud dried fast. Our boys this day are husking corn by the job, have 12 bushels of corn and dinner for husking a certain pile of corn. 13th, March 1846. I will mention our boys husked yesterday, which was Thursday, though it rained. Some 40 stalks of corn for the fodder and 4 bushels of corn. Saturday 14th, weather good. The camp still remain here. Monday 16th, myself and Nathan Tanner left with 5 horses to trade them for oxen. Traveled from Van Buren Company north. Crossed Des Moines north into Jefferson Company. I returned on Thursday evening. I made no trade for oxen. On my return at Chekas Creek with 2 men, proposals were made for a trade on the day following. Page 50. Accordingly, my son John and Nathan Tanner took my horses and went to effect a trade. Friday 20th, I will mention here that on Thursday 19th the camp, most of it, left this point for the flats on the Chariton River. Amasa Lyman's company, most of it, remain on the ground and expect to until Saturday. I will mention that on Tuesday morning, the 17th of March, a son of Sidney Tanner of about 18 months of age expired. This is the first death in A. Lyman's company. There has been 2 other deaths. Brother Edwin Little, a nephew of Brother Brigham Young's, and Sister Spencer, the wife of Orson Spencer, all have died while the camp has been here at Richardson's Point. My family all in good health. My daughter Zena left Thursday with the camp that left this place. Weather cool, roads are improving fast. March 20th. 15 minutes past 11. A. Lyman's company left the camping place and set out for the Chariton Bottoms. I will mention my son and Nathan Tanner returned from exchanging my horses. They effected a trade, returned with 2 yoke of oxen, which enables me to go on with my loading. We traveled Saturday 9 miles. Stopped at Mr. Locke's plantation on the South Fork of Checkaist River. We had a slight rain in the night. Sunday morning, March 22nd, 1846, and left camp 15 minutes past 8. Weather cool and cloudy. 12 o'clock Sunday, we are now in Davis County. Traveled this day 18 miles. Weather cloudy through the day. Sunday night, encamped at Mr. Easley's Grove on Fox River. It commenced to rain in the evening. Rained moderately through the night. Monday 23rd, showery through the day. Could not go on our journey. Took a job to make 500 rails for 15 bushels of corn. We are to make the rails for Mr. Easley. Rained and blowed through the night. Tuesday 24th continues to rain and snow through the day up to 30 minutes past 1 o'clock. Wednesday 25th snowed and rained through the day. Wind shifts to west. At sunset, page 51, roads impassable. Thursday 26th wind west, sun rises clear, snow melts. Put our men at making rails to finish the job of Mr. Easley's. This day, I was visited by Brother Richard Thorne, who is camped 2 miles up the river with a small camp of brethren. Heard from Brother Thorne from the main camp, who are on the Chariton River, or they are across the river on the bluff browsing their cattle. My family all in good health who are with me. Zena is on ahead with the main camp, I expect. Friday 27th, March 1846. Weather cold. Ground froze, spits, snow thaws out through the day. Our hands commence a job to make 3,000 rails. We are to receive pork and corn. Myself and Sidney Tanner made 100 rails this day, which finishes the job for Mr. Easley. Thus ends this day. All is well in our camp. Saturday 28th, wind west. Cool and windy. Pleasant for March. This day I am 63 years of age, am in good health. 1. Made a pair of oxbows, and I have the care of a company of 10 in Amasa Lyman's company. Our camp are yet at Mr. Easley's timber in township of Bloomfield, Davis County, Iowa Territory on Fox River about 80 miles from Nauvoo. Sunday morning 29th, weather more pleasant this morning. We sent 2 of our teams in company with Brother Edward Doucet onto the main camp. Our 2 teams took a part of our load so as to light our loads. Expect our teams will return before we leave to join main camp. My wife Caroline and Lydia spend their time at this place making palm leaf hats. All well except John, who is troubled with the bowel complaint. Monday morning 30th, weather pleasant. Our hands gone to their job. Lyman and John hunting ducks and squirrels. It's now 11 o'clock a.m. Tuesday 31st, weather good. All hands at work. Myself and Nathan Tanner made a yoke apiece for our oxen. Our hands finished the rail job this day. We had a birthday dinner at A. Lyman's tent made of ducks. The dinner, page 52, in commemoration of himself. Our teams returned from the camp. Request sent from Brother Brigham for A. Lyman to hasten on. Accordingly, his camp left Easley's Wednesday, April 1st, 30 minutes past 9 o'clock. Crossed the Fox River at 12 o'clock, traveled 15 miles, camped on Little Indian Creek on 17 mile per hour, at a pleasant place. Good water. All well in camp. Thursday morning, April 2nd. W. East wind. Looks like rain. 12 o'clock, crosses Shoal Creek. Thunder shower rains arrived on the ground. The main camp left the day before. 30 minutes past 1, rains hard. Encamped with Parley P. Pratt and George A. Smith. Rains hard the afternoon, wind east. At 12 o'clock at night, wind west. Rains hard through the night. Wind blowed down Brother Tanner's tent. Very muddy, unpleasant time. Streams high. All well. Saturday morning 4th, cloudy, light rain or mist. 3 o'clock p.m. John has gone a-hunting. We are now, as we suppose, in Missouri, on the bluff of Shoal Creek, or in other words, we are now on the disputed tract under the jurisdiction of Missouri. John has returned with Brother Rice. Helped Brother Rice to bring a venison. Had 1/4 of the same. Rains this evening. Sunday 5th, clear and pleasant. John went out before breakfast, shot a fat turkey. Brother Turley's family arrived in camp this day, who have been behind from Sugar Creek, 3 p.m. Monday 6th, April 1846, commenced to rain at 6 a.m. Rained all day, wind south. Wind shifted into the west at 10 in the evening. Thundered and rained in torrents. Wind blew a gale. It was with difficulty the brethren could hold their tents up. Brother Rice's tent blew down. Dr. Braley's, horse mired by his wagon, chilled and died. Had a disagreeable night. Page 53, Tuesday morning 7th wind. High ground froze. Our teams much chilled. We held a meeting of the company at P.P. Pratt's tent. Received instruction relative to the organization of the camp, or that of a 50, alluding more particular the organization of the third 50 consisting of the families or companies of P. Pratt, George A. Smith, Amasa Lyman, and the Spencers, Daniels, and Orison, which is calculated will make 50 wagons in all. No corn for our teams. We have fed all to them this morning. Our commissaries have gone out this morning in pursuit of more. Now 3 p.m. clear and cool, high wind. Wednesday 8th and commissaries returned yesterday. No corn for the camp this morning. Have orders to roll out. Weather pleasant. I left the camp 10 minutes before 9. This camp is on the North Fork of Shoal Creek. Roads bad, traveled 8 miles, encamped on the South Fork of Shoal. Found my daughter Zena with a fine son born in a tent on the bank of the Chariton River. Encamped the night. Thursday 9th orders to roll out this morning 10 minutes before 8. Looks like rain. Road extreme bad. Heber Kimball's company first, the other companies consisting of House, Harvey, and Maleros rolled out rather in confusion. That is, those first ready rolled out first. Accordingly, my team was ahead of the 3 last companies. From the North Fork, the 2 days of bad roads, I had no help from any team, while scarcely a team but what'd help. At 12 p.m., it commenced to rain with some 200 teams then scattered over the wet flat prairies for 3 miles. The rain increased, the roads soon became impassable. Teams were stalled in every direction. Men doubling and tripling teams, but to no effect with many wagons, that were left stalled in the mud in every direction. Many families remained on the prairie overnight without fire, with their clothing wet and cold. High wind all night. Heber Kimball's company traveled 8 miles, encamped 1 mile from timber in the cold, wet prairie. The 3 remaining companies, those of them that were not stalled on the prairies, page 54, turned off from the road 1 a mile. Note: part of the preceding sentence was covered by an ink blot. They encamped on Elm Point, and spent one of the most uncomfortable nights that so many of the church ever suffered in one night. It rained steady all night. Very cold and a high wind. The ground filled with water. The mud knee-deep around our tents and little or no feed for our teams. One cow, through fatigue, laid down by the wagon on the prairie, chilled and died. A general scene of suffering for man and beast. Friday 10th scene of suffering still continues. Frequent showers through the day, gales of wind throwing down tents. Upset Brother Theodore Turley's buggy. Injured the top teams. We were sent out to bring in families who stayed overnight. My team went out twice after wagons. A gale of snow at 4 p.m. Friday night. Froze hard. Saturday 11th cool, cloudy day. Sent out teams to help in all the families. Sent after corn. We are browsing our cattle by cutting down elm's truss. Have no grain to feed our teams. Sunday morning 12th, April 1846. Weather pleasant. A request sent from President Brigham Young for A. Lyman and myself to attend a council consisting of the 12, the High Council and others. Note: part of the preceding sentence was covered by an ink blot. Leading men such as bishops and etc. met at Heber C. Kimball's camp at 10 a.m. Council decided that a company of men should leave this week consisting of the 12, pioneers and others to the amount of 50, should go up to the timber on Grand River, some 230 miles, and make farm of some 100 acres, fence, plow and put in a crop and build some cabins. Another company to go to Grand River to Judge Miller's mills, to labor for corn and provision, other than to exchange in horses and other property for oxen and provision, etc. Decided also that the camp should not go through the Missouri settlement, but that we would go from the farm on Grand River, which is in contemplation to be made, direct to, page 55, Council Bluff, Iowa. Council adjourned. I took dinner with Brother Yersley and returned home. Monday morning 13th weather good. Struck our tents and rolled out from Elm Point, which is in Missouri, Putnam County on Blackbird Creek. Left 1U2 past 11 a.m., arrived at the camp of Hebersee, Kimball's 1U2 past 2 p.m. We are on the North Fork of Lewis Creek in Putnam County on the disputed tract. Tuesday 14th weather pleasant. Orders from Brigham Young for all the camp to cross the bottoms of the Lewis Creek this day. Accordingly, all the are put in requisition by doubling the teams to cross the bottoms. My team has come this morning from Elm Point with Albert Tanner's wagons, as he helped me yesterday up to this place, and our Tanner's wagons now gone to the camp of Brigham's in D. We are expecting them back every minute. It's now 3:00 p.m. left camp at 4 p.m. rolled across the bottom of Lewis Creek. One of the worst pieces of road that could be found in a wet time, but having had 3 or 4 dry days, the road improved much. We arrived on the bluff about sunset, where we joined the main camp. As beautiful a sight as ever was seen in this region of country. A city of tents and wagons inhabited by the saints of the last days. Wednesday 15th weather pleasant. Orders given for most of the camp to roll out. Accordingly, at about 11:00 a.m., the line of march was taken up here. One of the most splendid sights I ever witnessed. So great a number of wagons spread out on one of the most splendid wide prairies that ever was seen. We took a western course on the divide between the Lewis and Medicine River, intending to cut the timber on the Grand River, where it is intended to make a farm. We traveled 7 miles and camped on a small fork of Lewis Creek where there was wood and water. John Taylor's company encamped near us. It looks like rain. It is now about sundown. John is out hunting. John returns. Thursday 16th, April 1846. Weather pleasant. Our company, most of them, roll out a company of 3 or 4 go on a trading expedition to exchange horses for, page 56, oxen. George A. Smith and A. Lyman remained on the ground until teams could be sent back for them, as their teams were sent off for trade. We arrived at our camping ground 1U2 past 4, after rolling over the most beautiful prairie grass in the Ravens. The grass is up so as to give our cattle something to eat. Weather warm, a growing time. We encamped on one of the North Forks of Medicine River. A beautiful situation. Friday morning 17th weather good. Teams were sent back for the brethren behind. The day is spent in taking care of our teams and arranging our camp. Saturday morning 18th weather good. A council called. Met at Brigham's camp. All of the companies are encamped near each other. A council is called to commence fitting a company for the mountains. All the teams put into the camp by individuals to help off. The church were called for. Orders was given by President Young for all wagons loaded with families drawn by public teams to be unloaded and brought to him on Monday morning next, to be loaded with public property and the families to be helped up to the contemplated farm and there be left until such times as they can fit themselves for the mountains. Here I have one of the most trying scenes I ever have had. As I have no team, nor wagon of my own, I expect on Monday morning to unload the wagon I have been using, put my goods on the ground, and be helped up to the stopping place. Having agreeable counsel previous to leaving Nauvoo, Illinois, given a deed to my lot to the trustees in order to fulfill my covenant made at October conference, as also all the church to do all we could to help the church, therefore I am now, according to the President's order, to be left on the campground, and my affects to be carried up to Grand River Settlement and fit out myself. John, his son, has killed 6 turkeys this week. Sunday morning 19th weather good. The brethren are agreeable to appointment this morning. Going to meeting met at Brigham's camp. This is the first meeting held since we left Nauvoo. We were addressed by Brigham and others on the page 57, Propriety of Emigrating on Correct Principles. Our meeting was, I think, held without a person, but what was on the journey. We are now on the disputed tract near the north line on a wide prairie where there is no road, but that made by the church. It was recommended by President Young that we hold meetings every week as we journey. A pleasant or an interesting meeting. A good spirit prevailed in the camp. Brothers Lee Bybee and Mark Hall arrived here from Nauvoo. Came here for the express purpose to take back 2 of our wagons, mine and Henry's. An arrangement was made to leave them. Monday 20th Na Council called this morning at 9:00 a.m. A report of all the members of the Tens as to their means to go on their journey to the mountains in order to select a company of such as could fit themselves. This day in council, President Brigham Young said to me that I might have the team and wagon to go to the mountains if I could fit myself with provisions. It was recommended for all the 50s to send out men with wagon loads of such property as could be spared, such as beds, chests, and all unnecessary property for the journey, and exchange it for oxen, cows, and provision. Accordingly, sent my portion of property to exchange it for cows, and my son John went with the teams. This day I received a letter from Brother Ari Brower announcing to me the death of his wife's mother, whose name was Mary Brower. She died the 27th of March and was buried on my lot with my first wife. Tuesday morning 21st, weather cloudy. Looks like rain. The great part of the camp rolled out this morning for Grand River. Some of our men have gone to look for work to procure provisions, while the wagons and my son, which I spoke of yesterday, set out this morning to make an exchange of property. It is now 1:00 p.m. My family all well. William Huntington. Obituary notice written by his son Oliver B. Huntington, President. William Huntington died at his residence at Mt. Pisgah. The annexed biographical sketch is from the pen of his son, Oliver B. Biographical sketch and obituary notice of William Huntington, whose parents were born in Tollard Township and County, Connecticut. His Fithero's name was William Huntington. His Mothero's before marriage was Presendia Lathrop. Soon after the close of the Revolutionary War, they moved to New Grantham, Cheshire County, New Hampshire, where William Huntington was born March 28, 1784. In 1804, they moved to the state of New York, Watertown, Jefferson Country, and were among the first settlers in the county. In 1806, he returned to New Hampshire and married Zena Baker, daughter of Dr. Oliver Baker, December 28, 1806. Soon after he married, he moved to Watertown, New York, where he lived and prospered in temporal blessings until 1811, when he sold out, and the following year war was declared with Great Britain, which proved fatal to his prospects, and coupled with much sickness in the family reduced them very low in pecuniary circumstances. His service in the army was done with the fife. He was in one battle, that of Sackett's Harbor. In 1816, Providence smiled on him again, and about the same time he experienced religion, having an honest heart before God and earnestly inquiring of the Lord as to the truth and reality of the history and doctrines of the Bible. And from that time the Spirit of the Lord began to show him the right way to live and what was coming on the earth. First he was shown that intoxicating drinks were not pleasing to God and were conducive of evil temporally and spiritually. He left them off and joined the Presbyterian Church. God next shewed him that tobacco was not good for him, and he left off its use. Then his mind began to be clear, and his view of the world was changed by faithful and sincere prayer to know who and what was right. He received an answer that none were right, but that he should live to see the true Church of Christ, having the gifts and graces as did the Church in Christo's day. He left the Presbyterians and proclaimed boldly what God had sown him, that all had gone astray, darkness covered the people, and that the Church of Christ came, it would be adorned with the gifts of healing, prophecy, etc. From that time he became an outcast in society in all these prayers, principles, and faith. His wife was one with him. In the winter of 1832-33, he first heard of Mormonism, read the Book of Mormon, and believed it with all his heart, and preached it almost every day to his neighbors and everybody he could see, or had the privilege to chat with, until 1836, when he and his wife with 2 of their children were baptized by Elder Dutcher. His house was a meeting house and a home for all the saints. On the 8th of May, 1836, he sent 2 of his children and their families, Dimmick B. Huntington and Presendia, to Kirtland, Ohio, waiting himself only to sell out. October 1st, 1836, he started and moved to Kirtland with quite a number of saints under the direction of Orson Pratt and Luke L. Johnson, he was ordained an elder previous to starting. He arrived in Kirtland on the 11th, bought a farm of Jacob Bump and paid him $3,000 and was defrauded out of it, so that in little over 1 year he was compelled to labor by the day for a living. In the breaking up at Kirtland, the apostates harassed him with lawsuits until he saw his children often go to bed crying for bread. Near 2 weeks lived on greens. His house was a hiding place for Father Joseph Smith, Hiram, Samuel, and Carlos while trying to escape from the persecution in Kirtland. The mummies were hid in his house a long time. Many of the pursued and persecuted found a retreat there and a hiding place from apostate persecution. In Kirtland, Ohio, he received his washing and anointing in the temple and was ordained a high priest and high counselor, in which office he acted until the church left there. He lost $500 in the Kirtland Bank. He started May 21, 1838, for Far West, where he arrived about the 11th of July and by council moved to Diamond. He drove team for Oliver Snow to get his clothing hauled, where he was chosen commissary for the brethren who armed for defense, and after the mobs had driven and hemmed in the scattering brethren, he was commissary to all the people of that place and had charge of all the provisions of the town. After the surrender of the church in Missouri, he was foreman of the committee chosen to confer with the committee chosen by the mob. These two committees were representatives of, and authorized to transact all business for, their respective communities. He was also one of a committee chosen to see to the poor and get them moved out of the state of Missouri, which they did to the complete satisfaction of all the church, though with no ordinary exertion, and stayed himself till about the last man and family. His was one of the first families that moved to Commerce, afterward called Nauvoo, where he arrived May 14, 1839. About the 1st of July his whole family was taken sick, and on the 8th his wife died of sickness caused by hardship and exposure. At this time he suffered for the comforts of life. At a conference held on the first Tuesday in October 1839, he was again chosen to the office of High Counselor. August 28, 1840, he married Lydia Partridge, widow of Bishop Edward Partridge, whose maiden name was Lydia Clisby. As High Counselor, he helped lay one of the cornerstones of the Nauvoo Temple on the 8th of March, 1841. He commenced immediately upon the walls of the temple and worked until the basement was done, then cut stone until the capstone was laid. And by particular request the stones which he cut were laid in a column from the basement to the top of the chimney at the southwest corner. As soon as the temple was ready for giving endowments, he administered therein until the close. He continued a member of the High Council until the expulsion from Nauvoo. In the move from Nauvoo, he was appointed captain of a company of 50 wagons which he helped make and fit up the company, which was subsequently disorganized, and he was appointed a captain of 10 in Amasa M. Limano's company until the settlement of Mount Pisgah, where he was left to preside over that stake or branch with Charles C. Rich and Ezra T. Benson for his counselors. At this place his labors were extreme and unremitting for the good and welfare of the people, and the comfort of the sick, of which there were a great many, and on the 9th of August, 1846, he was taken sick with chills and fever, of which he died at 10 minutes before 11 a.m. on the 19th of August, 1846. He died without a struggle or a groan. He was the father of 6 sons and 4 daughters, and at the time 2 daughters and 4 sons in the church. In life he was loved by all the saints. His love and zeal for the cause of God were unsurpassed by any. His judgment was respected and his conduct never questioned. He never had a trial or difficulty with any person in the church.